Coach, Chris Clark here. Wanted to ask you about jumping right into this game coming up next year with A&T. It took on a UAB team. I'm not saying Trent Dilfer invented football, but they were able to do whatever they wanted to with A&T. What does a game like that do for you, if anything, for an A&T squad? Because it doesn't look like they were able to move the football, throw the football. How tough is it to scout them off of that one game? Or are you even looking at that?
Well, I know they struggled, but they're going to be an improved team this week. Obviously they played up. UAB's a Power Five. Group of Five team. So they were a little outmatched, but I'm sure they're going to get some stuff corrected, and they'll be a whole different team this week. But obviously, schematically, we have an idea now of what that their two coordinators like to do offensively and defensively, and got to see some of the new guys and some new talent they have in there. We'll have to come up with a game plan, man, and execute at a very high level this week, because obviously this being a rivalry, they gonna come in there jacked up, ready to roll. So it'll be a completely different team.
So if I could follow up with that real quick before I hand it over to JB here, what is it that you saw in that new guy? Because it's a new guy under center as well. It didn't look like they let him throw too much, or if he didn't get the opportunity to. But what did you see in him, Coach?
And he's very athletic and has a very strong arm. They had quite a bit of pressure on him, so he didn't have a lot of time to sit back there and really go through his progressions. But he is very elusive, and I think he has an extremely strong arm, and they have a great receiving core. So we're going to have to do a great job of keeping him in the pocket and being able to get him on the ground.
Coach, thanks for taking out the time. I don't have too much for you, but I did want to know, considering all the off-season hype that you guys had to deal with coming in, how content were you? Were you happy with the way they brought the energy and the level of preparation that you expected going in to this first game of the season, considering what you guys had to deal with during the offseason?
Definitely. I thought our guys were locked in and focused. We have a disciplined football team, and they know how to carry themselves. And, when they came out the tunnel, I was sitting over with my state trooper, and I just kind of looked at him, he looked at me, and I said, I think they're ready. But we came out with a lot of energy, and that's what we had talked about. Starting fast. And I love the way they came out and they were ready to play. The only thing is I didn't like when we came out of the locker room, it was a little lull, and I don't think we played as hard that second half as we did in the first. But we had some juice come out of the locker room, and we're going to turn it up a notch this weekend.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up about the second half performance, because I've heard your critique on the way that performance went. Is there a level of urgency that you have right now for developing that depth that you want to have, as we go ahead and, get into the meat of this season? Are you going to be harder on those guys this week to make sure they level up compared to the way they played in the second half against the?
Well, we coach our twos our twos and threes like we coach our ones. And, we expect them to go out there and execute and play with proper technique and fundamentals. So I don't care. We talked about it at halftime. I don't care who goes in the game. It's a level that we want to play at. Although we didn't, we'll make those corrections today and we'll move on. But I think it's important. And I've always, like last year, I always like to play a lot of guys, as many as we can, because you don't ever know when somebody's going to go down with the injury, and their backup needs to be prepared. And, at the same time, these guys putting all this work, the twos and threes, they expect to get playing. They should get some playing time too. Their parents coming to the game. So, we get up, we get an opportunity to put them in. I'm going to play them. But, yeah, we got to get these guys developed.
Coach Oliver, I wanted to ask you about playing on the road up there at their place. I know sometimes they might not have the talent, but they pack it out, especially when you guys show up in that joint. How different is it playing in an environment like that? And it's not that your team hasn't played, obviously, down in Atlanta, took care of business in Celebration Bowl. But how different is that environment going up there, and what kind of problems does it present for you all?
None. We're battle tested. We've been on the road and played at Tennessee Tech last year. We played a ranked New Hampshire team last year. Our guys don't care. It doesn't matter where we play. Put the ball down and we're going to be ready to roll. There's going to be a hostile environment, but I know Eagle Nation is going to pack it out too. So it's going to be a great crowd there, great environment, great atmosphere. But that's why you come to these schools. That's why you come to a black college and play in this conference, so you can be a part of this right here.
Coach, if I could get another quick question in, I'm just real generic question in regarding to this rivalry. What does it mean to you at this point of your career, and just everything that you've experienced in college athletics and just where college football is at right now and all the transition and all the changing of the guard that's taking place in all these conferences. But North Carolina Central and North Carolina A&T, like that's still, you know what I mean? That's got to get your blood boiling.
It does. It does. And I know how important it is to our university and our fan base. And it's my responsibility to make sure that we put a good product on the field and we come home with a victory. But yeah, this is there's not any play right here. This is real, and it's gonna get real Saturday.
Hey coach. First question is that second half is what's happened in the second half? Is that rust or is that just the team getting tired and they weren't in full game shape?
No, we're in shape. That didn't have anything to do with it. I think the most snaps anybody on defense played was about 35 snaps. Okay. The average game is usually between 68 and 75. So most of the guys on defense only played half the game. And just when you play so many guys, you don't have that continuity. When you have the ones out there, the ones have been practicing everything with each other. Now, when you put the twos and you mix the threes and some of the fours in there, communication, you have some bust with that a little bit. And, Winston still, they have a good football team. They have some talent, and they had their starters in there and we had some of our down the line guys. So we didn't execute like we wanted to, but we are in shape. That's not a problem.
Okay, thank you. I have one more question. Are you taking this week differently in practice because it is the arch rival A&T versus Central?
Not at all. It's just we're going to prepare for it just like it was Winston or like UCLA next week. Nothing changes with our approach to the game. We're not going to practice any longer. We practice for 2 hours and we get out of there. We meet for 45 minutes. We out of there. So we're not going to do anything different. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. All right, our guys know what they're doing. We have a good football team. It's just about paying attention to detail and staying focused. I'm not going to worry about our effort and all of that stuff. We just have to pay attention to detail and have a thermostat mentality. We can't get too high when something good happens, and we can't get too low when something bad happens. We just have to play well for 60 minutes.
Got one more question here, and I promise I'll leave you alone, Coach. I wanted to ask you about Collier. Kind of hit on it Saturday, but just to drill down on it, how nice is it to have a guy out of the backfield that can handle the load? It has been handling the load the last couple of years, ever since he got here from Marshall, but now can catch but can also catch passes out of the backfield to add that extra element. How nice is it to have a back like that going forward, especially under the MIA?
He's unbelievable, and I just got finished meeting with an NFL scout a second ago, and I think he's probably better without the ball in his hands. As far as rushing is concerned, like he's great in pass protection and he has outstanding hands. We'll run the ball with him. He's low to get down and he can make you miss and he can run over you. But at the same time, he's great in pass pro and he's great out of the backfield. Now he did drop one. I don't know if you saw that one. He dropped one that he probably would have scored on. So don't give him too much credit. Mook has a little work to do this week, but great young man and he's an outstanding football player.
Following you up is Brandon Codrington. If you could talk about Brandon and what he's meant to the program.
Outstanding young man, outstanding player, is a competitor, one of the most competitive guys on the team. Can play a lot of different positions. The nickel corner. I think he played a little bit of safety last year. And then obviously in the return game, he's dangerous. And he's put several in the box, and if you kick it to him, you better hold your breath. But he can make a play out of nothing, and that was a huge one this Saturday. And I commend all the guys because there were a lot of great effort plays on that play. A lot of guys throwing big blocks, and we didn't have any penalties. But Brandon's been since he got here, he's been nothing but joy to have in the program, and he's a leader, vocal leader. And is very passionate about the game. So he's a pleasure to have on the team. I'm glad we don't have to kick to him.
I've always wondered when you have a guy like Brandon who doesn't always get all the stats, but that's oftentimes due to the fact that he's doing his job as a cover defender, right? Because quarterbacks know not to throw his way. You're a former defensive back. How do you continue to play at that level when the ball's not coming to you and you're not getting your stats?
That's a great question. Sometimes you can lose focus and the ball's not coming to you. It's not coming to you. It's not coming to you. It's kind of like playing the outfield of baseball. You don't know what inning you're going to get that fly ball and have to go chase it down. So You just have to stay locked in that position for 60 minutes the whole game, and you don't ever know when it's going to be a double move or whatever the case may be. So staying focused and having a great eye discipline is key. But you can't fall asleep over on that island. And, we play so much man, and with BK, we can just tell him to go walk down and press and lock him up. So we try to play 10-on-10 with the rest of them.
And you talked about how dangerous he is in the kicking game. He's had 3 career special teams touchdowns, and it seems like all of them have come in big moments. One was a game winner his freshman year. And you talk about playing all 3 phases. How important it is to have a guy that can get you points on special teams.
We talk about field position. We're trying to set up the offense for scores, but when you can score on special teams, that's unbelievable. That is unbelievable. And like you said, the scores he had, he returned the one against Delaware State as freshman. I think it was like 30 seconds off on the clock, and everybody was thinking we were going to overtime. And they kick it to him, and about 90 yards later, it's touchdown. The MEAC Swag Challenge at Alcorn down in Atlanta, he broke their back with a huge punt return that game.
How you doing, Brandon?
Good, how are you?
Great. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here today. If you could start off just giving your overall assessment on the team's performance on Saturday.
I feel like we came out very strong in the first half, high energy. But, I feel like towards the second half, kind of took our foot off the brake a little bit. And, that's what we want to work on going into next week.
Brandon, good to see you again there. I will post that return as soon as I get off the call with you here and tag the school. And that way, I promised you I'd do it Saturday. And it's converting now, trust me. But I wanted to ask you about, first of all, getting the specialist of the week here. With 3rd in 3 years, seems like you can't get away from these things. What do you think about getting that, first of all?
It's a blessing, but the objective is to get another one next week. So, just want to move forward and work on getting better next week.
Let me ask you, playing this week on the road, A&T. You've been through this a couple of times. What is it like stepping into that game? I know what the standard answer is: just another game, just another opponent. But this isn't just another game or his opponent. This is A&T, man. Come on, you can't tell me that you guys aren't just a little bit more juice for this one.
Of course, it's a little bit more juice, but like Coach Oliver said, it's just at the end of the day, it's just another game. That's how we like to treat it, from practicing and from workouts. Every opponent is the same. The biggest game is the next game, and that's A&T this week.
Solid answer. Coach has got you coached up well there. What can you take from these guys from that first game, if anything? Because UAB kind of smacked them around, didn't really give them a chance to show a whole lot of what they could do. They pretty much locked them up. What did you see that UAB put on them that you guys could take advantage of this week, if anything?
A&T played a group of 5 team, so we really don't want to judge them based off just one game. We also want to look at last year's film and just after looking at film, then we'll know exactly what things we need to do.
And looking at last year to this year, new guy under center, what is similarities in the scheme, or you looking at the players coming back, or what is it that you're keying in on there?
We look at everything. Of course, you look at players coming back and then new players coming in, but at the end of the day, we just want to. It's just really about us at the end of the day. So we just want to handle, do our things right, and if we do the things that we know we can do, then hopefully the rest takes care of itself.
And the last question before I hand this over to somebody else and not hog this entire interview is what kind of a mentality do you have out there on the island when they put you out there? What kind of a mental state do you go into? What are you thinking and looking when you're out there to make sure that you get your job done? Because it's a lot of swagger out there I see when I watch you play.
I just try to be as aggressive as I can, really protecting the ball, and field position is the biggest. So even if I can't get a good return, when the ball is rolling, just make sure I get down on it so that it doesn't keep rolling and put the offense in a bad position.
Hey, Brandon. Yeah, Chris got to all the good stuff. Congratulations on the specialist of the weekend. We appreciate you taking out this time. I just got one question for you in regards to this Carolina A&T rivalry. It goes back decades, man. I've actually been a part of it, for more than 10 years, and I just, I love the rivalry that takes place between these two programs. But what does this generation of players, how do you guys feel about this rivalry, compared to the other games that are on your schedule when the schedule comes out in the offseason and you see, the particular games that you guys pick out? What is the feeling for this generation when you see A&T on that schedule, regardless of how many times you guys have played them in your career?
Like I said before, it's just another game. Of course, the energy and the intensity is very high. When you go in there, it's a hostile environment. But at the end of the day, we try to look at it as if we just go in there and do the things that we can do and control what we can control, then the rest takes care of itself.
What's the best advice you have for the younger players who might be experiencing this for the first time? You know what I mean? They might get certain texts, they might get certain tweets. Social media is crazy these days. What's your advice to the younger guys as far as staying locked in and focused in for this game this Saturday so you can come out with the dub?
We really just tell them to ignore social media, and let the game speak for itself. And then when the zeros hit the clock, hopefully we get the outcome that we were looking for.
I'm curious to know, is there still a lot of that going on between these two programs? Can you give us a little bit of intel of the behind the scenes hate that you guys have for each other?
Of course, on the field, it's the energy is high, and like I said, it's a rivalry. We don't like each other when we get on the field, but off the field, it's nothing but love. Some of us grew up with each other, so off the field, it really isn't much of trash talking and any of that on social media before the games.
All right, I appreciate you, Brandon, man. Good luck this Saturday.
Thank you.
You have one more question, actually, and congrats on threading the needle on that last answer, by the way, Brandon. That was very nice. I wanted to know, backing up to high school days, we got Broughton and Millbrook this week as our game of the week. Any thoughts on that with that rivalry with you two?
That's definitely a rivalry game. I have homeboys who went to Millbrook and now play college ball. And that's really the same thing. Not really much of trash talking before the game. We know on the field, you don't know what can happen. But after the game, it's nothing but love. But shout out to Broughton. Hopefully they handle business.
I was going to say, I was going to ask you to give me your take on the game, your prognostication. What do you think is going to happen? What are we going to see Friday night here between those two?
Of course, I got to go with the Caps and say they're going to handle business.
Brandon, Chris asked you earlier about, kind of your mental approach. And you talked about the kick returns and punt returns. Talk a little bit when you're lining up at cornerback and you're eye to eye with that receiver. What's that mental approach like? And how do you stay locked in? Again, when the ball, like Coach mentioned, the ball may not come your way, but it might be fourth quarter, minute left, and you might see the first target coming your way. How do you stay locked in?
That's really what Coach McCray, our cornerbacks coach, harps on. It's just, treating every play like you're going to get the ball. So, that's really what the approach you want to have every snap is that the quarterback's throwing your way every play. So you have no choice but to stay locked in.
You mentioned Coach Tony McCray. What does it mean to you as someone who aspires to play on the next level to have your position coach who's been there and done that in the NFL?
It's definitely a blessing. Not everybody can say that they have a NFL ex-NFL player as a position coach. So it's really a blessing. I try to take everything he says and apply it to the game.